All the tribes of Arabia were united in cooperation with Hashim. Under his leadership, his trade caravans traveled with complete peace and security. Once again, Hashim set out with his caravan on a long journey toward Sham. Across the vast and harsh desert, the travelers rested at quiet oases. An oasis, an inhabited sanctuary in the middle of the barren desert, shaded by towering date palms, blessed with sweet water wells, and surrounded by patches of fresh green grass. Here, the members of the caravan would rest, refill their leather water skins, provide food and water to their camels, and refresh themselves before continuing their exhausting trek. Leaving one oasis meant days of relentless travel through scorching sands before reaching the next. After days of travel, Hashim and his companions finally reached the grand city of Sham. They displayed their trading goods in the lively marketplace. People from various lands gathered to buy and sell, bargaining, negotiating, and closing deals. The market was buzzing with energy. Soon, all the goods brought from Mecca were completely sold out. They purchased local goods needed for Mecca and began their journey home. On their return journey, the caravan arrived in the historic city of Yasrib. Have you heard of Yasrib? You might know it today as the blessed city of Medina. Yasrib was its ancient name. Hashim and his team decided to rest in Yasrib for a few days. During their leisure time, they walked through the vibrant markets of the city. Trade was flourishing. Amidst the crowd, Hashim noticed a brilliant and remarkably talented businesswoman. Impressed by her intelligence and trade skills, Hashim wished to know more about her. She belonged to Banu Najjar, one of the most noble families in Yasrib. Beautiful, graceful, and highly respected. Her name was Salma. Deep within his heart, Hashim wished to marry Salma. Sensing his feelings, his companions approached Salma's family with the proposal. The family was astonished. Hashim, the world-renowned, wealthy leader and ruler of Mecca, was asking for Salma's hand in marriage. For the Banu Najjar clan, there was no greater honor. They gladly accepted the proposal. Salma's heart filled with immense joy. The news reached the relatives in Mecca, and they too rejoiced. Since Yasrib was situated along the primary trade route, forming a strong bond, there was a great blessing. And so, the grand wedding took place. Hashim and Salma returned to Mecca alongside the caravan. Noble women from various tribes came to welcome the bride, showering her with feasts and precious gifts. Salma stood by her husband, actively supporting him in his trade affairs. Life was flowing smoothly, filled with love and happiness. Soon, Salma became pregnant. It was a moment of supreme delight for the noble family of Banu Hashim, and the happy news quickly reached Yasrib. According to ancient tradition, when a married woman becomes pregnant, she must be brought back to her parental home for childbirth. The elders of Banu Najjar arrived in Mecca and said, "We are taking our daughter back. Let the child be born in Yasrib, as per our custom." Neither Hashim nor Salma wished to be separated, yet traditions had to be respected. Salma prepared for the journey and climbed into her camel palanquin. Shadows of deep grief covered her pale face, and tears welled up in her dark, beautiful eyes. Hashim's eyes, too, filled with silent tears. As the camel stepped forward, Salma drifted further and further away. With Salma gone, Hashim lost his usual cheerful spirit, weighed down by the sorrow of separation. But a leader cannot remain idle. Immersing himself in endless responsibilities, Hashim tried to heal his aching heart. Months passed by with no word from Yasrib, as news traveled slowly in those days. Then came the next trade season. Vast quantities of merchandise were gathered, tied into huge bundles, and loaded onto camels. The long, grueling journey to Sham began once again. The return journey from Sham would pass directly through Yasrib. This time, Hashim planned to stay longer, live at Salma's house, and embrace her again. His heart yearned to see her, and he bought precious gifts from Sham just for her. The trade in Sham was a grand success, yielding high profits. With excitement rushing through his veins, Hashim set out on the return journey. The desire to reach Yasrib was so intense that even the fast-paced camels seemed too slow for him. Suddenly, severe exhaustion overwhelmed Hashim. He fell critically ill. The caravan halted immediately. Despite continuous medical care and dedicated attention, his illness only worsened day by day. Panic and despair gripped his companions. And then, the tragic moment arrived. The legendary and noble leader of Mecca closed his eyes forever. Hashim passed away. Since transporting his body back home was impossible, he was laid to rest in that very land. In Yasrib, Salma waited endlessly for her husband's return, her eyes filled with hopeful tears. During this time, Salma gave birth to a radiant and exceptionally beautiful baby boy. She named him Shaibat al-Hamd, and everyone fondly called him Shaiba. Finally, the devastating news reached Yasrib. Hashim would never return to see her, nor would he ever get to hold his beloved child, Shaiba. Tears streamed down Salma's pale cheeks as she embraced her precious baby close to her chest and wept in profound sorrow. Hashim had managed to maintain peace and harmony in the city of Mecca. The people of Mecca relied entirely on the trade caravans to bring food, as there was no agriculture in Mecca. During Hashim's time, the caravans brought abundant food supplies, allowing the people to live without hunger. Everyone loved this leader who served the public, and Hashim's passing plunged the townsfolk into profound grief. But now, who would be their leader? Peace had to be maintained, hunger prevented, and a good ruler was needed. Usually, after a ruler passes away, authority goes to the prominent one among his children. But Hashim's son was just a young child. Could he be made the ruler? Muttalib was Hashim's brother. He was compassionate and a servant of the people. So the people gathered and made Muttalib their leader. Muttalib began to rule the city of Mecca. He led the trade caravans, and during the Hajj season, when many people arrived in Mecca, he made all necessary arrangements to provide water and food to the pilgrims. In a short time, Muttalib became the beloved leader of the townsfolk. Many years passed. Muttalib would often think about Shaiba. Do you remember Shaiba? The son of Hashim. Muttalib felt that the governance of Mecca should be handed over to Shaiba, as he was the one who ought to rule Mecca. Shaiba was living with his mother in Yasrib. He needed to be brought to Mecca, grow up here, and learn the customs of this land. One day, Muttalib traveled to Yasrib. The camel he rode came to a stop in the courtyard of the Banu Najjar family home. The family welcomed Muttalib warmly, and Salma, along with her son, stepped forward to receive him. It was a grand feast. After all, the king of Mecca had arrived. "Salma, I have a serious matter to discuss with you, and that is why I came," Muttalib said. Salma looked at Muttalib's face in wonder. Muttalib presented the matter. "Shaiba is Hashim's son. He must become the ruler of Mecca. Let him come and reside in Mecca to learn all the customs there. You must send him with me. To give away her son?" Salma's heart ached. "Do not worry at all. Shaiba has a bright future. Let him grow up following in his father's footsteps. Let Shaiba uphold the honor and glory of Hashim. The people who loved Hashim will love Shaiba too," Muttalib reassured her. The conversation continued, and finally, Salma agreed to send her son. Accompanied by Shaiba, Muttalib set out on his return to Mecca. As they traveled through the vast desert, Muttalib introduced various regions to him. They crossed the border of Mecca, and Shaiba looked around the entire area with eyes full of wonder. As Muttalib and Shaiba crossed the border of Mecca, Shaiba looked around with awe-filled eyes, and the Meccans saw this scene. Muttalib was sitting on the camel, and behind him sat a young man. Thinking he was a slave brought from the slave market, they liked the young man and cheerfully began shouting, "Abdul Muttalib! Abdul Muttalib!" meaning, "The slave of Muttalib! The slave of Muttalib!" Muttalib grew angry and shouted back, "Woe to you! This is not my slave. This is my brother's son. He is Shaiba." But who was listening? People kept calling him Abdul Muttalib. That was how the name became famous, and Hashim's son, Shaibat al-Hamd, became known as Abdul Muttalib. Just like the Arabs of that time, we too can call Shaiba as Abdul Muttalib. He was an intelligent young man with a broad mind, and he very quickly won the affection of the people. Muttalib taught the young man the matters of governance and told him the family history. Being Hashim's son, he learned everything very quickly. Eventually, Abdul Muttalib became the great ruler of Mecca. Abdul Muttalib married, and the first son born to him was named Harith. Allah blessed Abdul Muttalib with great favors and granted him many children. Among his children, his deepest love was for Abdullah. Abdullah was handsome and had a fair complexion. Everyone liked Abdullah. Like others, Abdullah also became a merchant, while hunting and marksmanship became his favorite hobbies. Abdullah was only around 20 years old when Abdul Muttalib felt a great desire to get his son married, wishing to find a bride from a noble lineage. A marriage proposal reached the famous Banu Zuhra family in Mecca. Let us introduce that family. Among the grandfathers of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a leader named Kilab. A son of grandfather Kilab was named Zuhra, and the lineage of Zuhra is called Banu Zuhra. You might have learned this history before. The leader of the Banu Zuhra family was Wahb, and his beautiful daughter was Aminah. Everyone was very fond of the virtuous Aminah, and Abdul Muttalib liked her too. He approached Wahb and asked, "I wish for your daughter, Aminah, to be married to my son." For the supreme leader of Mecca to seek a proposal from his family was a great honor. Wahb joyfully agreed, and the marriage was fixed. Upon hearing the news, the women of Mecca said, "Aminah is so fortunate to have gotten Abdullah as her husband." So many women had yearned to become Abdullah's wife, but that fortune belonged to Aminah. Once the marriage was fixed, Wahb's busyness increased. Relatives, friends, and tribal leaders needed to be invited to the wedding. A top-class feast had to be prepared, as the elites of Mecca were accompanying the groom. A spacious tent was pitched in front of the house, arranged with rows of seating. A canopy for cooking food was set up, and cooks arrived. Abundant fruits and various kinds of beverages were brought in. Camels were slaughtered and meat was cooked in different styles. Sheep were slaughtered, roasted, and fried. Fresh breads and sweets were prepared. To be continued, insha'Allah.